Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So this is going to be my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finale video. So much happened in the finale. It was totally amazing, and it teases a lot of things that they might be able to do in the future. So a lot of things from the comics, so I'll explain what that is. Also some really important dates too. Agent Carter is going to premiere January 6th with a 2-hour first episode. It'll run for 8 episodes total. Then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will come back, and it's going to cross over with Avengers Age of Ultron. So I'll explain that after I talk about the episode. Whole lot of really awesome comic book things that we have to talk about from the episode, but starting with top 5 moments, so just careful for spoilers if you're not caught up. So, number 5, Skye meets her father for the first time. As expected, he turned out to be Calvin Zabo, the father of Daisy Johnson, making her the Quake character. So much of the fandom had this theory that it wasn't as big of a reveal as it would have been if nobody would have known about it, but it was still a big surprise. And I am really happy they decided to use comic book origins instead of try to invent something new. There's always minor changes they have to make just because of the way TV gets made and rights issues, but for the most part, these characters are fair game for Marvel. Just to explain his character in the comics a little bit, he does have powers, but he got them in a lab using a formula. He will be in the second half of the season. They will continue to explore their family relationship. I would assume that he's going to be in maybe at least like 2 or 3 episodes. Skye is going to be getting to know her mother's side of the family, and Kyle MacLachlan's character is the backdoor to that. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually knows some of those mystery Inhuman characters we saw at the end. They didn't want to paint him as a villain. They just want him to be this misunderstood, really tragic figure. They didn't want to take that away from him. Playing that kind of character is probably what attracted Kyle MacLachlan to the series. I'm sure he probably doesn't care about superpowers or anything like that. Most really big actors that get called to do Marvel stuff typically aren't comic book fans. They get more excited by really complex characters like this. It's just a bonus that they also have this really awesome comic book origin story. Number 4, Ward and Agent 33 are the new Bonnie and Clyde of the series. If it wasn't too clear what was going on with them, she has to look for a new identity. Ward says, "I'll help you, let's get the hell out of here." I know it seemed like Skye shot him, but it's just like a Whitehall situation. Unless you see them disintegrate in front of your eyes like Trip, they're not confirmed dead. So they're just going to be on the run. I think the reason she still has May's face is because they want to tie Brett Dalton to the rest of the cast, but they want him to be off on his own, and they don't want to have to hire like a billion other actors. So it's a way to keep costs down, to keep the cast from getting too big, and a way to visually link him to the S.H.I.E.L.D. team. So he won't be rejoining Coulson's team. Coulson still hates his guts. Everyone else pretty much thinks he's a dirtbag. But he's still a really awesome character. He's still really interesting. So he's going to continue to have adventures and cross paths with Team Coulson and Skye. It's just most of his adventures will be with Agent 33, which I'm actually pretty excited about. She's like his new sidekick. I think it's just going to be a really awesome opportunity for Ming-Na to play a different type of character while wearing the same face. That's another thing too. It's like Stephen Amell on Arrow, where he plays young Oliver and old Oliver, and they're both very different characters, even though he kind of looks the same. I mean, it's the same person. Number 3, Whitehall Down. It's the same thing with the Mac reveal in the last episode. You know, he fell down that giant hole. So the big WTF is going to be whenever we see them again and go, "Oh my god, he's not dead." Too bad that's probably not going to happen with Trip. I think whenever we got that Whitehall episode, I explained that what I thought Whitehall did was take all of her internal organs. Skye's father kind of confirmed that her power involves long life, but I think there's a regeneration component to that. So I think he's just going to heal himself. It would be totally awesome if we saw him turn into like some freakish monster by the end of the series. But I think now he's going to be involved in chasing down some of these other Inhuman characters. It seems like they've kind of been hiding out, so he might not know about them. He didn't really know about the Diviner, so I'm guessing he does not know about these secret Inhuman characters living in society. As a villain, he was relatively minor this first half of the season. We didn't see him that much. I mean, he's already one of the heads of Hydra. In terms of villains, you can't get much bigger than that, but he hasn't really been chasing down the S.H.I.E.L.D. characters that much. He's just been floating in the background doing this S.H.I.E.L.D. land grab thing. Number 2, the Terrigen Crystal activates Reyna's and Skye's powers. Just to explain, that was a Terrigen Crystal inside there. There were a lot of theories. I think Terrigen Crystal was one of the leading ones. The other theory was that, there might have been an Infinity Stone in there. I didn't think that was going to happen just because that feels like a very movie thing, Infinity Stones. Terrigen Crystal is kind of up for grabs though. And now we know that there are several Terrigen Crystals scattered all over the world, and they're all connected. It's right out of the comics. It's not something that they really had to change. They did make the transition a little bit more subtle. Usually there's a lot more mist in the comics, and there's a lot more crystals. Like, it's usually a crystal chamber instead of just one crystal. The big question I know everyone has is, which characters in the comics they are. Like I said, Skye, Daisy Johnson, aka Quake from the characters. She's a S.H.I.E.L.D. character, also works with the Avengers. Pretty much anybody with a computer had this theory, so it's like the least surprising thing ever. I think the most interesting thing about her is the way they're going to express those powers and the way she's going to be using them in the back half of the season. Like, that's the interesting part, her learning to use her powers. Because it's a TV budget, they're not going to get too crazy with it. It's basically seismic abilities, and that just means them shaking the camera a whole lot. Raina is a little bit more of a question mark. She looks like she's getting cat-like abilities. There are a couple characters that fit that bill. There's this really minor Inhuman character called Minxie that was part of this small arc that got involved with Medusa. She was a relatively minor character. The big character that I'm really hoping she is actually Tigra. She wasn't an Inhuman in the comics. She was like a B-level Avenger, but she ended up getting her powers through this really weird ritual. But Tigra is way more exciting because of what it might mean. So what I'm really hoping they do is just give her Tigra's character and then just change the backstory a little bit. It's a bit of a long shot, but Tigra was this really big character in Avengers Academy most recently. So it could be a backdoor for them doing Avengers Academy or even Runaways. Runaways is actually a comic that Joss Whedon wrote on, and he is like king of the Avengers right now at Marvel. So that would be just so amazing if they did something like that in a future season. It's a little soon for them to do that. They don't have that many Inhuman characters on screen, so I think it's too soon to do Avengers Academy. Runaways would be something first. It'd be like them chasing down characters, these Inhuman characters, and trying to help them in like a very X-Men type situation. All things to get excited about for the future. It's just a really big place they could take things in season 3 or season 4. And my number one moment, of course, Inhumans post-credits teaser. There are many of them all over the world. The big question is how many of them are there, and are they all together or are they scattered? I know everyone's wondering who that character is without the eyes. There is this new blind character in the comics called Reader. It's possible that it's him. He's part of that new run of Inhumans, so you should start reading the Inhumans comics, like the recent ones, if you really want to catch up with that stuff. He said that he would, quote unquote, take care of it, meaning that he's going to track down Skye. They don't seem like they're villainous characters, so I think that Coulson will try to help them once they start to cross paths. The Inhumans have always been a very insular society. They have worked with the Avengers, but they've never been buddy-buddy. Even Black Bolt is very standoffish. So don't expect those Inhumans, like these new characters that we'll meet in the second half of the season, to join S.H.I.E.L.D. Think of it as an early look of what an Avengers Inhumans team-up might look like in Infinity War. Let me know though, what was your favorite moment from the episode? And here's my big question for you guys. Which character from the comics do you want Raina to be? While you guys think about that, here's a couple other important things we need to mention. The Theta Protocol. That was a measure of last resort. Theta is a type of brainwave, and protocol could refer to the activation of assets in terms of people or tech. Iron Man in the comics activated all of his armor suits simultaneously with a similar sounding protocol. Wouldn't it be crazy though if it was like a life model decoy activation? I don't think it has anything to do with activating the Avengers, although that movie is going to cross over with a TV series in the spring. Overall, in general, I gave the episode a solid B+. I mean, it was a great mid-season finale. They technically did some really amazing things, big homage to the comics, so they took some big chances. I was really happy with that. But I feel like their cast has just gotten too big to service all the characters the way they need to be serviced. One of the advantages to having a smaller cast is that you can spend more time with each person. Like, Trip dying should have been a huge thing, but it felt almost offhanded. I know they tried to milk the moment whenever she was getting her powers, whenever Skye was getting her powers, but just the way he died felt so casual. Like, he just slowly stepped into the chamber and said, "Oh hey, I came to get you," and then he died. That just didn't land for me. Trip deserved better. He was actually a really awesome character. I'm gonna miss him. And yes, I do think that he's dead. Just to talk about Skye's character now, because she's the one that's going through the biggest change. Well, her and Reyna, but I felt like season 1 was centered on her, so this is just a natural extension of that storyline. Coulson always feels like the main character, but really I think the show is told from her perspective. I think there are just too many characters, like I said, so sometimes it gets a little confusing. I am a big fan of Chloe Bennet. I always love the behind the scenes stuff that she posts. Like, they're really funny behind the scenes, just like most actors are, even if their characters are really serious. If it seems like her performance is a little inconsistent, I think that's just because of them having to service all these storylines. I'm really hoping that they just drill down on her in the second half of the season. Ming-Na didn't get a whole lot in this episode. I feel like she's going to actually get some more interesting stuff with this Agent 33 side storyline. I really hope they do let her keep that face and she gets to be like these two characters in the same show. My other lesser complaint is the Kyle MacLachlan character. I feel like he's just written to be a little too nuts. I feel like that performance went just a little over the line, like it got a little too tongue-in-cheek for me, like a little too on the nose. I'd like to see him a little bit more like Mark Ruffalo's Hulk character whenever he's in Hulk form. All in all, great episode. So what's going to be happening now is I'll be doing bonus videos in the off-season. I'll start doing some Agent Carter videos too when we get closer to that. Remember, it's a 2-hour premiere, January 6th. It's going to air on ABC in the same time slot that S.H.I.E.L.D. normally airs. So whichever channel you watch S.H.I.E.L.D. on, that's the channel you'll watch Agent Carter on. So whenever that comes, most of my focus is going to shift to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. There will be some loose crossover probably with this Inhumans plot, but it'll be way in the past. They'll have their own storyline, but I think they'll loosely connect to what's been going on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's Marvel's big thing. Everything is connected, so just look forward to that. Be sure to subscribe to get all those videos. If there's any specific bonus videos you guys want, I know a lot of you guys have been asking for Inhumans videos, so I'll definitely do some of those. Just to address the Avengers Age of Ultron crossover. Previously, it was thought that BJ Britt, the Trips character, was going to cross over. That was just a rumor. He was seen on the set. The biggest thing we've heard officially about it is that the crossover isn't going to affect Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, the events of Age of Ultron won't affect S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show, as much as Winter Soldier. So the crossover itself will be much more minor. Don't forget tonight too, Arrow mid-season finale, so that's going to be really exciting. Right now, if you guys are on your mobile phone or on your tablet, there's new mobile links up here that you can click on. It's the same as the links over here. But click here to learn more about the Inhumans movie, and click here for all my other S.H.I.E.L.D. videos. Thank you so much for watching, so let's all high five. I will see you guys tonight.